Hi, my name is Andrew Sears, and this is Nonprofit Human Resources, the first lesson in this course. And just to give you a little bit of my background around human resources, I've been managing a nonprofit organization for about 22 years at this point, and have also worked closely with about 100 partner organizations. And human resources is one of the most important aspects of a manager's job. So what we're going to be doing in this course is helping to equip you for a lot of the things that you need to know in the domain is human resources. So how this course helps you become a balanced leader and manager, we often say that there's this framework we have of competencies. You have business skills, ministry skills. Those are often in tension with each other. You have entrepreneurial skills and operations skills. So all of our courses map to these domains. So nonprofit human resources is primarily, in my perspective, in the ministry and relational competencies. It's actually closely related to organizational behavior. And then there's business and funding competencies. There's operational and governance competencies. And then there's innovation competencies. Now, one thing that's important to recognize in human resources, often there's two roles that it plays. One is what I would call the control function, where it's basically keeping you out of trouble. The other one is the support function, and that's where you're serving your staff and trying to support them in the organization, and recognize that there's both of those functions. So just to understand this course, part of it, you need to understand what our educational philosophy is. We use something called constructionist approach to learning. There's been a lot of research that have shown that adults learn best by doing things. And the basic idea of constructionist learning is everything centers around building. And we have a major project. So you're going to be doing reading, you're going to have videos, you're going to have discussions, and you're going to have tools and templates, and all of those center around a major project. So the major project we have is you're going to be building a manager's toolkit, basically going through the entire employee life cycle for you as a manager. So we're going to start off with you recruiting that person, and then the hire to start, the first 2 weeks, the onboarding, the orientation, 2 weeks to 6 months. And then how do you support them during this time? How do you do performance management, and then employee separation? So we're going to take you through that whole life cycle, and you're going to be building a toolkit that will help you and help others in your organization. So what does that look like? So we have 8 weeks and 8 course outcomes. So after completing this course in week 1, you're going to be able to outline your organization's hiring process, develop key documents needed in hiring, including job descriptions, job postings, interview scripting, scoring, develop a plan to onboard and train new employees, write a sample performance evaluation of an employee using best practices, apply best practices of managing difficult staff members, and develop a correction action plan and a separation plan for a sample employee, evaluate an employee manual to ensure that it follows the best practices and addresses key legal issues, review a volunteer program to identify processes and best practices, and to create a nonprofit manager's employee supervision toolkit. So that's the final project, synthesizing all these things into your final project. Now, another way you can look at this is as an outline. These are the topics that you would cover. One of the points that I would just summarize, like to emphasize, that a 3-credit course should take you 135 hours of work, which comes down to about 17 hours of work per week. A lot of times students complain. They say this is too much work, but that's largely because they thought it was going to take 3 or 5 hours a week, and it ends up taking 17 hours, which is what it's supposed to according to accreditation standards. So another thing in terms of the educational philosophy and design of this course is based around learning theory called Bloom's Taxonomy. And the idea is you start with content at the base of the pyramid, and your first goal should be to remember. So as you go through each of these videos, don't just sit there and passively listen to the videos or passively go through a book. Take notes. And then we have the next level, which is the understand level. And largely what we're doing in our forums and our live meetings is making sure that you understand and you're reflecting. So And the idea is before we have you apply it, we want you to be able to understand. And the next level is applying. So all these components that you're building in week 2, the hiring toolkit, onboarding toolkit, performance evaluation, corrective action and separation, those are all applying. And then later we get you into evaluating. So you're evaluating the volunteer program, evaluating HR best practices. And then in the end, we want you to do a major revision of all of these things that you did into your final project, HR Manager's Toolkit. So we only have one required book that you need to buy, which is the Essential HR Handbook. It's a fairly short book, but there's a lot of other materials. We make up for it by providing you a lot of other materials. So we do have 2 other free books that you're using in this course. So the Staff Screening Toolkit and the Supervising Difficult Employees. And part of the reason why we focus on supervising difficult employees in this course is because a lot of our students are serving in at-risk communities, and part of their philosophy is they're going to give people second chances, but they're not going to give them 10th chances. So, and you know, what do you do whenever part of your mission is to take people who may have been former addicts and then hire them into your organization? Well, you need to understand and have good practices for managing, situations like that. So the other thing that makes this course unique, the target audience for this course, really, we're targeting a new manager. Some of you may already be managers. Some of you may be aspiring to be managers in the organization. We assume that most students in this course are not going to be an executive director or have executive authority over an organization's HR policies. So our graduate course, we're going to go much more into HR policies. And we're going to apply HR principles. So if you're saying, I'm taking this, but I plan to be in the business world, not a nonprofit, most of the principles will apply to the business world, but it's really, customized to the nonprofit. So the other thing that makes this course unique relative to other HR courses, we believe it's likely the most practical and relevant nonprofit HR course available in the United States. Partly because that's what we do. We focus on nonprofit organizations. And the other thing that makes it unique is we're a Christian university. So we have a lot of specific application to HR issues in Christian nonprofits and ministries. Now, if you take an HR course at a generic university and you use a generic textbook, you're going to have all of these different domains of human resources. And what's important to recognize is that we're not trying to cover all of the generic domains in equal depth. And so the top priority we're looking at in this course is this piece of the puzzle, or the pie piece here, talent management. So processes to attract, motivate, and retain engaged employees. So that's a lot of what your project's going to focus on. Number 2 is performance management. So that's another part of your project. 3 is going to be training and development. 4 is going to be compliance. So this course is compliance light. If you look at a lot of HR textbooks, almost the whole textbook is focused on compliance, or like more than 50%. And a lot of these other domains, we're not getting into strategic planning. We're not getting into labor relations, because most nonprofits don't, have to work as much with unions, smaller nonprofits at least. Safety and health, and compensation. We touch on that lightly, but we're assuming that most people in this course are not going to be the executive that sets compensation policies in an organization. Now, one thing to recognize is your final project rubric also follows. So all of your assignments are going to be following this rubric. So let me start with the first priority. So what is the practical usefulness and value to the organization? So from the perspective of an organization's executive director or board member, how effective would this, and sorry, I'll fix this project be in orienting, and sorry, quick correction on that slide. How effective would this project be and useful would it be for the organization? So another point to really strongly emphasize in this course, probably more than any other, we give you a ton of templates, more templates in this course than any other course we've provided. And you're free to utilize those, but if you're using a third-party template, how much value have you added by customizing or extended the template for the organization? And one of the things we're going to suggest is that you use track changes if you're building on one of our templates, so that the instructor can see, what you've added or changed. Now, the second priority is mastery of course concepts. Now, you may say, well, that's only 20%. Well, part of it is if you're providing something practical and useful, then you probably already mastered the course concepts. But sometimes people will show that they understand the concepts, but they can't convert it into anything useful. And then the third priority is going to be the professionalism of the writing. So that's 10%. So let me get into the final project template. So most of the course is going to be based around this template. And the basic idea of this final project is, if you look at the project summary, is your supervisor has requested that you compile an employee supervision toolkit for managers with key documents and templates for them to use. The goal is that it will be a compilation of many projects you've done in the course. And part of the idea behind this is whenever you submit your final project, you can reuse your previous assignment. So you're going to spend 5 weeks building components of this, but you should revise them based on feedback from your instructor and what else you learned in this course. So that's the key part in terms of this document. So you can go and you can either download it as Microsoft Word if you want to edit it in Word, or if you want to edit it in Google Docs, you can make a copy. And each week, what you're going to be doing is, for at least the weeks that use this template, you'll have an assignment that will generally each week will link to one of the parts. So in week 1, you have these instructions that explain the hiring process overview, and then you have the different sections. In most weeks, there'll be multiple sections. Now, before you submit, you should get rid of your instructions, because what we don't want to have at the end is you have a 20-page document and then there's 8 pages of instructions in that. Just to give you an overview of all the components of this, so you're going to have part 1 is you're going to do an overview of the hiring process. Part 2 is you're going to go through the hiring process tools. Then you're going to go through the hiring, orientation, and onboarding process. Then you're going to do some performance management and performance evaluation and corrective action and employee termination process. So I'm really excited for you to have you in this course. And if you have any questions, please let us know, let your faculty member know. In the next session, we're going to have Angie Kreiner, who is one of the most knowledgeable HR consultants that I know, working with over 70 Christian nonprofits. And I think she'll be able to provide you with a lot of great resources. So thanks.